Tencent took a rather sizable stake of Ubisoft today. Believe the percentage was 49.9%. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, 49.9.
Yeah, which makes Tencent it does not make Tencent the major owner or the controlling owner. The Guillemot brothers are still those. But that makes let's talk more about it. Really, what does this mean? What do you think this means for Ubisoft that Tencent took such a sizable controlling stake into the or not non-controlling stake really, but took a sizable financial stake into Ubisoft?
We got a comment a while ago on one of our videos about this speculation originally.
Yes,
and what the commenter had said, this sounds like Tencent is possibly looking for a company to partner up with for Western publishing and localization, which could be a plausible idea.
Right.
I think the other thing is just, at least from what I can see, is this potentially gives Tencent easier access to Ubisoft's IPs and potentially lets them do some, I guess, licensed port work for the Chinese market. That's my immediate thought that I can think of.
The comment said they feel like Tencent wants to bring its own games to the American public through Ubisoft. It's a brand name it's the brand name that's worth buying. So that is an interesting thought. I also think that the purchasing of Tencent will mean that my opinion, that Ubisoft is probably going to put more chips into its, I would say, flagging mobile division that they have. They have a bunch of mobile games that are, I don't think, doing so hot right now. Let me just check real quick. I know that Rayman had his own game. Division, Rainbow Six. There's an Assassin's Creed one. Just Dance has one for some reason. Elite Squad is the big one, if I recall correctly. But even that isn't doing so hot either, from what I've heard at least. This also might be a stake into the Chinese market as well. So that could also be a reason why they're buying up, so they can have control in their market when it comes to those games. I mean, we're just speculating on this, really. But that's my opinion, because I think this means that they're... I think it also means that the Tom Clancy name is probably going to be used a lot more than it already is. And that's saying something, because the Tom Clancy name is used a lot in Ubisoft. So there's that.
I think more interesting was the PR blast that Ubisoft had put out, that they had engaged in this deal with Tencent because supposedly the money in Tencent will provide sustainable business in the game development field, was what the PR blast said, and it just sounds a little bit flowery on the language and everything, because just Tencent, while they do have quite a big war chest of money and everything, the real big question is just going to be what happens when the Ubisoft purchase doesn't really provide that great of a return on the money. If, say, they just can't really hit their numbers and everything, because while Tencent is pretty generous on just doling out the cash and everything, they will demand answers if the numbers are just not really turning over anything that is profitable. I know there was one unofficial Warframe content creator saying that the financial reports regarding Warframe from Tencent's public reports, they seem to gloss over just just Warframe's numbers, especially considering that Warframe's previous owner had reported that the game was actually reporting losses and everything, but yet just with Tencent's ownership of Warframe now, Tencent has been a bit evasive on the numbers and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes me wonder what will happen in the event that Ubisoft's games do not perform as predicted and everything.
Mm. That will be interesting. They're known to be pretty ruthless when it comes to studio acquisitions and shuttering as well when they don't perform. So I don't think that will be really much of a problem for Ubisoft, because as much as they have some issues, they still have cash cows like Rainbow Six Siege that will make them money. So I don't think that will be much of an issue really, unless unless their next few games turn out to be total duds, which might be the issue for Skull and Bones. I don't think that would be much of an issue on that end. But yeah, like it will be interesting what happens with Ubisoft after Tencent has more of a stake on what they're doing. So, speaking of Tencent as well, they also took more financial stakes in another studio, and along with Sony, Sony and Tencent, I believe, took 15% stakes in FromSoft. Am I correct on that? It was a total of 30 between the two of them. So,
yeah, I believe the split was about 15%. Tencent, 15% on Sony.
Right.
So yeah, both companies now own a third of From Software, and then I think the rest of the controlling shares are under Katakawa Games, which is a subsidiary of the Katakawa Group, which also publishes manga and also is behind some anime studios.
Right. I mean, this is just this purchase is essentially them going to a hot studio that has had a proven track record for the last, good God, 5 games now? Has it been 5 games? Yeah. From the last 5 games, and it's just to bolster their portfolio. In my mind, these companies are not going to do a damn thing to FromSoft. They're going to say, hey, make us money. And they're like, yeah, okay, Elden Ring 2. Oh, okay, great. And that's it. I think that's essentially it. Like they've had such a proven track record that you don't want to fuck with them. Give them your money, sure, but you don't want to you don't want to give them notes and say, hey, can we make Elden Ring a little more happier? That makes more sales. Like, they're not going to do that. They're just going to say, hey, here's money, make more money, please. It is essentially what I think is going on. Maybe there's a little bit of incentive for them to do a Bloodborne remaster or a Bloodborne 2 for Sony. Maybe. But I think this is genuinely just a financial bolstering for both parties. Basically saying, hey, let's take a portion of this company so we can just make more money off of what they're doing. Is my opinion. I think that's all that is, really.
Yeah, and I know that there was a lot of doom and gloom from some people who aren't quite well-versed on how things like stocks work, because I remember seeing internet forum chatter of, oh my god, Sony's going to start making FromSoft bend knee and make their games exclusive to PlayStation and PC. It's going to be over. Yeah, no more Xbox crap. And it's just like, yeah, 15%. Yeah, sure, that might grant them some voting board rights, but not enough to really completely bend the company to its knee and say, you will do exactly what we asked for.
Right.
So,
right. I would have been more worried if that was Tencent buying it, to be completely honest. But no, Sony's not going to do that. And this is, like I said, this is purely a financial acquisition that they are using to bolster their own profits. They just saw a good studio that does good work, that makes a lot of sales, and say, hey, I want a piece of that, and here's more money to make a better game, and do what you gotta do. And they set them off his merry way and do as such. So, yeah, I don't see this being I don't see that doom and gloom happening. Like, to be absolutely honest, because and also when it comes to financials and sales, you want these games to be in as much homes and as much consoles and PCs as possible. So Sony acquiring them to just make it exclusive would probably not be such a good idea on their end.